We have time now for our closing statements, 3 minutes apiece, and we begin with Mr. Bevan.
At the end of the day, I mean, you do have 3 days now. Got, I guess, 2 weeks from, 6 weeks from today, I guess, is when you'll choose the next governor for the state of Kentucky. It will affect you for the next 4 years. It'll affect you for the next 14 and the next 40. The question you need to ask yourselves, you have us both standing here. You've heard both of us speak to you. And while this is a microcosm, I hope you dig deeper. I hope you ask yourself even more questions. But which one of us do you trust? If you had to leave your cooperative to one of the two of us to run, which of us would you put in charge? If you had to allow one of us, and only one of us, to ensure that the 18-year-olds don't end up going to other states, that they do come back not only to your communities but to this state, which of the two of us would you trust? If you had to ensure that the success of what it is that you do in your communities continued to be maintained, because you couldn't do it and one of the two of us had to step in your stead, which of the two of us would you ask to step in and take over your responsibilities? Because truth be told, if you don't trust either one of us to do that, you shouldn't trust us to be the next governor of this state. And if the answer is one over the other, then that should help give you some indication of where you ought to vote in this next election. I'm a guy who grew up in a simple way, as I said. I've been very blessed. I've served this nation in uniform, but I've also been a guy who has employed a whole lot of people and continues to employ a whole lot of people. I don't need or want this job badly enough to blow smoke in order to get it, to mislead you about where I stand in order to get it, to not be specific on things like the pension crisis in order to get this position. I'm putting myself forward as somebody who's willing to serve you, to be a public servant, as somebody who's willing to sit down with you as an open ear and an open door. Somebody who comes unencumbered by anybody. There's nobody who has handled me for decades. There's nobody who has groomed me. I'm not a career politician. I'm a business person. I come with a blank sheet of paper, and we will do what is in the best interest of this state. And the commitment that I make to you is this: I will fight for you and I will fight for your interests, not only of your industry, but of your individual families and your communities, like I would fight for my own. That is a commitment that I make to you. That is something that I absolutely pledge. I will defend this state like I defended this nation when I wore this nation's uniform. That is something I pledge. I can't promise you things that cost money because we're strapped financially. But you have my absolute commitment that I will stand on the wall and I will defend this state against the EPA, against other states that would send people in here to poach our businesses, and we will do everything in our power to ensure that we sustain ourselves and that we become the greatest version of who we can be. We could be great. We will be great. And with your help, and I'd be grateful for your vote, I truly think that we can be great. I'd be appreciative of your vote on November the 3rd. Thank you.
General Conway?
Well, thank you for having me here today. Joe, thanks for inviting me this morning. I appreciate it very much. I think you trust the person who has a record of cutting his own budget in the Attorney General's office by 40%. I think you trust the person that when the General Assembly gave me $1, I returned nearly $4 to the state treasury. We've returned over $300 million to the state treasury. I think you trust someone who has this experience and understands down at the actual generation level what you're doing at East Kentucky Power at Big Rivers, or what you're doing at the distribution level to reach the hardest to reach areas of this state. I think you trust someone who has a plan for economic development that builds on our strengths. I think you trust someone who's actually going to stand up for the SOAR initiative and actually wants to take advantage of public-private partnerships to deliver broadband access to rural Kentucky and particularly to eastern Kentucky. And while my opponent says he may not want the job badly enough, I want it badly enough. I want it badly enough for public education in this state. I don't think we ought to move to a system that's a pure voucher system and just give parents money and say use it at public schools, private schools, or for homeschooling. That's not standing by public education. I want it badly enough for early childhood education, because I believe passionately, as does Sandy Overley and as does my wife, that that child that's ready for kindergarten will test well in the 3rd grade, 6th grade, go on and be college or career ready. I want it badly enough for the investments that we can make together in the future of Kentucky. You know, I know times are tough and I know that money is tight, but state government can be a facilitator when it needs to be. And I've proven I'm a good steward of taxpayer dollars. I've cut my own budget. When it came time to save the tobacco payment, I went out and saved it. I've stood by our agricultural economy in rural Kentucky. I honor my opponent's service. He did wear our uniform. I was also National AG Chair on the Veterans Committee and helped shut down websites like GIBill.com that were nothing but a funnel for the for-profit colleges that were more interested in getting their hands on GI Bill money than they weren't actually educating workers and placing them in jobs. And I've taken on my own party when it was the right thing to do for our low-cost energy advantage here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. There are big differences coming before the voters here in 41 days, and we're going to work hard. And I would be honored. I would be honored to have support in your communities, and I'd be honored to have your vote on November the 3rd. And I'm blessed to be here with you today. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it speaks to your leadership in our electric cooperatives that these candidates for governor are with us this morning. It speaks to their commitment to Kentucky as well. Election day is November 3rd. One of these two gentlemen will be putting his hand on the Bible on December 8th, pretty soon, coming up here to be our next governor. Please join me in thanking them for being here this morning. Oh, thank you.